Hello, and welcome to Unmuted, a podcast about you finding your voice so that you can impact your world. I'm your host, Courtland Warren. And in today's episode, I'm going to share with you some things that I've really not ever shared, at least with this number of people. There are a few people who know, but as a result of my own, let's call it embarrassment, uh, feelings of less than, I've often concealed this part of my journey to become a renowned public speaker and mindset coach. And so I feel like it could be of benefit to those of you who are listening, particularly those who have this idea that it needs to be perfect in order to get started. I know a number of people who have found themselves stuck at the start. In fact, as the late Bob Proctor would say, many people get stopped at the start because of this idea that it needs to be perfect and it has to be a certain way before we even get going. And so what I'm going to share with you in this episode is evidence from my own life that that is not the case. All right. So if I were to look at this and call, what would be a creative title for this particular episode, I would call it, I would call it How to Kill Your Imposter. How to kill off your imposter. It is without question that one of the things that gets in the way for many people achieving greatness, reaching their goals, going after the big dreams versus the ones they settle for, is this notion of I'm not good enough, I'm not adequate enough, I'm not deserving, I'm not smart enough, I need more credentials, I need more certifications. And so there is this view or this belief by many that if they get there, they're an imposter. Who am I? Particularly when people see greatness in you, they see talent in you, they see high potential in you, and you don't see it in yourself. There's a part of us sometimes, and I'm speaking for myself, but there are times when it feels like, man, I've got them fooled. Like I've tricked them. Like there's no way they're able to see that. And we can, call that a feeling of imposter syndrome. I remember, 20 plus years ago now, 20 plus years ago, when I first left corporate and I had determined that I was going to become a nationally known speaker, that I wasn't going to be a hypey, gimmicky, motivational speaker, but for sure I was going to use my ability as an orator and a speaker to speak life into other human beings. I had determined that I was going to do that. And I was living in Atlanta, Georgia. I moved out to Southern California to begin training and development. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that when I moved to Southern California, I was flat broke. And that's when I learned about what housing costs in Southern California as compared to Georgia. I was living in a studio apartment that was definitely mortgages, particularly in Oklahoma, where I'm from, and in Georgia. I had the help of a friend for a couple of months, and I went to work. And I would go from Orange County to San Diego to LA. I was kind of making that triangle. And I started on with a company that led seminars, and I got that position. And so as I was in training, that would be my route. That would be my route. What I was being paid at the time was less than I made when I first came out of college and went to Oklahoma. I went to Oklahoma State when I first came out of college, and I went to work for an oil and gas company. My sign-on, my first year salary was more than I was making with this organization now, and I'm living in Southern California. I'm giving you that context so you can see just how much of a struggle it was. And my initial offer out of college was at $36,000 a year. So, before tax, $3,000 a month, and now I'm making less. Okay, you got the idea, living in Southern California. and I would be on stage and I would be speaking to people about what's possible, and I would share with them how their thoughts become things and how to manifest and how to affirm and how to take action and be resilient and set smart goals. And I would be proclaiming that, knowing that my pockets were empty. I felt like such a fraud. I felt like such a hypocrite, because what I was speaking about, I didn't even have. I developed this reputation as being a person who was pretty aloof among the employees of that organization and volunteers and so forth. I developed this reputation of being really aloof, because when it would be time to go to lunch or in the seminar, or at the end, it's time to go to dinner. Let's hang out, let's have dinner, let's have a few drinks and whatever. And Courtland developed this reputation of being really distant, because I wouldn't go to lunch, I wouldn't have dinner, I wouldn't do those things. And it was under the guise of, well, I need to go study more, or man, he's really, really serious. And the reality is, I didn't have the money to do it. They would be going to lunch at a nice place. I'm going to lunch at Subway. Or there were certain, I do recall times where people would be going to lunch and I would disappear, or I would hope that volunteers had brought, snacks to have, some fruits, some nuts, something that I could have, because I was broke. And the reason why I didn't want to go to lunch was because with anyone else was because I wasn't so sure that my debit card would even, approve the transaction, because it was already overdrafted. So imagine now I'm standing in front, over the course of the weekend and throughout the day, I'm standing in front of 120 people declaring what's possible, and you can do it, and to think is to create, and our thoughts become things, and we can achieve what we desire. And I'm standing there in front of them with a bank account that's negative, and I can't even afford a Subway sandwich on that particular day. You talk about feelings of hypocrisy, feeling like a fraud. And what was amazing was individuals would share with me that they were so impacted and their lives had been turned around, and they now believed that they could do it. And I would see people go out and create for themselves these extraordinary lives as a result of implementing the things that I had said. Their lives were positively unrecognizable. They had relationships in areas where they had never had relationship before. Their bank accounts were growing as a result of starting businesses that they once thought about, but finally began to take action on. Their life was different. And all of the thank yous that came to me, I would rebuff them. The thank yous that came to me and the accolades and the praise, I would push them off. Because underneath, I'm saying to myself, well, what's wrong with you, Courtland? Perhaps you need to start listening to and taking some of your own advice. Let's start practicing some of the things that you're teaching. And I wouldn't allow people to get really close to me, because I didn't want them to see that I didn't have what I was describing. I was an imposter, as far as I could tell. And so as a result of building, I started now to build my career, and I'm building my career. And it was like so many places where I would sabotage, and other places where I would look to ruin, not consciously, but subconsciously, unconsciously, I would sabotage opportunity. It was like when the praise became greatest, I would find a way to destroy my own reputation. I would find, not intentionally, not consciously. I didn't even realize that this is exactly what was happening until I began to study it more. But I started to see the elements of sabotage. No sooner than I would become number one, best results, best statistics, I'd find myself in some drama. And over and over again, this would happen until I began to see that actually, Courtland, what's happening here is you don't believe or feel that you are deserving of what you're seeing as possible for other people. And that's where I had to shift. I had to shift that because my feelings of unworthiness were destroying me from the inside. And as a result of that, the outward expression was a life that was substandard, lower than what I was capable of. And so I had to figure it out. I had to figure out just how exactly do I kill off this person who feels that he's an imposter and actually step into what I'm capable of. And that was the starting place. The starting place was the recognition or the awareness. See, no transformation can happen before awareness. Awareness is the first step towards change. And so by acknowledging that my feelings of inadequacy and not deserving and my acts of sabotage were indeed a outward expression of what was going on internally. So first I had to become aware. Secondly, I had to then challenge those negative beliefs. I had to challenge that view. When the self-doubt would creep in and questions of my own validity would start to arise, I had to recognize what I had been through. I had to recognize what I'd come from. That's the reason why when you listen to other episodes or if you've heard me live before, you hear me talk about growing up in Southeast Oklahoma on the west side of those railroad tracks. That's not to delve into issues of black and white and injustices and so forth. That's for me. That is empowering me because I stand there in front of extraordinary people like yourself. I get the opportunity to speak to wonderful people just like those of you who are listening right now. And it's still it's very humbling for me. And so before those feelings of I don't deserve to even have these opportunities start to come up, I have to remember where I started. I have to remember where I came from. And that enables me to challenge the negative thoughts. And so for you, if you find yourself in that place of imposter syndrome, first, become aware and tell yourself the truth about what it is. Secondly, begin to challenge that idea of your own validity. And you can do that by remembering or recalling what you've been through and where you've come from. And in so doing, you go to step 3, which is you focus on your achievements. You focus on the places where you win. It's not egotistical. It is not some, braggadocious idea to focus on your achievements. It is actually very empowering. You're going to need those moments. And I often speak about how important celebration is to the achievement cycle. Why? Because you need those places where you can focus on the achievements in or for those periods when self-doubt starts to creep in. And then from there, it's about embracing failure. See, it is what I recognized was that I was looking to be so perfect so that I wouldn't be discovered. I was looking to be so perfect so that I wouldn't be found out. Does that make sense? Is that resonating at all? Like I want to get it so perfect that so no one can poke any holes in it. I want it to be absolutely flawless. And guess what? My mechanics as a speaker were oftentimes viewed as flawless. Presentation impactful, but no one or very few would actually take action. Though my presentation was flawless, no one would take action, so much so that I got to the place where I was actually benched, is what I call it. I mean, I'm searching for a word where I was going out and I was doing classes and but there were no enrollments, there were no upgrades. And so the company decided that they could not afford to send me out because I would go out and no sales would be made. So much so that I got sat on the bench, even though I loved it, even though my mechanics were flawless. Because no one was inspired to action, I got sat on the sideline. And I had to embrace that. And so I recognized, okay, I'm out looking to be perfect. And my desire or my pursuit of perfection is robbing me of my dream. And so as a result of that, I had to shift my relationship with failure. I had to shift my relationship with failure and start to embrace it for what I could learn from it. And then ultimately, it came down to two more things. I had to stop comparing myself to other people, and I had to live authentically. First, I recognized through the law of relativity that nothing is either good or bad, positive or negative, until related to something else. And I recognized that part of my imposter syndrome was I was comparing myself to other people, be it Tony Robbins, be it Les Brown, be it, you name them, John DeMartini, Lisa Nichols, Marianne Williamson. I got to see these people up close and personal. And I would compare myself to them. And in comparing myself to them, and particularly their careers, I wasn't anywhere close. And that unfavorable comparison led to diminishing thoughts. And so I found that I needed to stop comparing myself to other people and recognize that what I had to offer and what I had to give was indeed valuable, and it belonged in the marketplace. And if I wasn't going to bring it, then it would never actually get there. And then I said, okay, my authentic self, my authenticity belongs. My authenticity belongs. And so here was the big shift, particularly with this organization. Here was the big shift. I recognized that based on how I grew up and based on where I'd come from and based on the things that I had to maneuver, for me, I was just grateful to even have a shot. I was just grateful to even have a chance. I was just so glad to be there. And though that could be understood as gratitude, I want you to read between the lines there and understand the subjective feelings of less than that actually drive that idea. I was just happy to be there. Glad they gave me a shot. Glad they gave me a chance. I am just in awe of the fact that I just get to do this. And I'm making $3,000 a month living in Southern California. Can't afford the rent. Bank accounts withdrawn or overdrawn. Credit so bad it can't get a credit card. But I'm talking about how great it can be for other people. Something had to shift. And what I recognized was what needed to shift was my view that I'm just grateful to be there. And I transformed that belief to, you're lucky to have me. And these groups of people that I would speak in front of, I was no longer this docile little lamb, just happy to be in your presence. I walked into those rooms, I walked into those hotels and those seminar rooms and those ballrooms, and I took the stage like the person that I am, who is worthy and deserving of impacting lives and transforming beliefs. It was not egotistical. It was not this pitiful idea of being narcissistic. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It was me stepping into the fact that I too am a gift, that I am special, and I have the ability to impact people. I moved from the idea that I'm an imposter who's fooled people and tricked them into liking me, to one who recognized that because of my work, because of my effort, because of my willingness to challenge old belief patterns and belief structures, and my willingness to put in the work, I belong. And I want you to put yourself in that spot now. Take any area of your life. where you've been wanting to excel, where you've been wanting to achieve, where you've been wanting to do great things, where you've been daring to live boldly and greatly? And where are you hesitant? Where have you been maybe overly cautious, seeking perfection? And as a result of that, you're stuck at the start. Where? And is there a part of you that has misunderstood gratitude? Because gratitude is not, I'm just happy to be here. Gratitude is not, I'm just happy that I have a chance. Gratitude to me is that you respect the opportunity so much that you bring your best to it. When I am truly in gratitude for opportunity, I don't look for shortcuts. When I am truly in gratitude for opportunity, I don't look for the easy route. When I am truly in gratitude for an opportunity, I don't look for the safest and easiest way. When I am truly in gratitude, I am willing to challenge myself to be greater than I have ever been. I am willing to challenge myself to call forth something within me that I did not even know was there. And so I ask you on this Labor Day edition of Unmuted, are you willing to put in the work, to pay the price? Are you willing? Before you even begin, ask yourself, what price are you willing to pay on the journey that you're about to embark on? Because the imposter stands or sits there as a representative, but we have to kill it off. And we do that first through awareness, recognizing and acknowledging that that belief is there. Secondly, we challenge those negative thoughts by recalling what you've overcome. We then, step 3, focus on the achievements. Why? Because the celebration is an important part of the achievement cycle. And then we also embrace the failures. We develop a relationship with failure whereby we learn from it. We don't experience the failure without taking with us the lessons. We then recognize that our contribution has a place in the market, and that your authenticity also belongs. And then around this idea of gratitude, sometimes our gratitude can actually be a diminished or disguised limiting belief. I'm just happy to be here is not empowered. I'm grateful to be here, so much so that I will not hide behind your insecurity. I will not allow your insecurity to keep me from living the best version of me, because I know that to truly be grateful means that I challenge myself enough to bring my best to the opportunity and to the experience. I hope this helps. And if it does, don't keep it a secret. Let someone know that this podcast actually exists. In fact, just take it and take the podcast, copy the link, forward it to someone today, or maybe forward it to 5 people who you believe would get value from it. I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.